Good evening, everybody. So I'm apologizing for my tardiness. I hope there's no police officers on here as I was speeding home to make it for our Facebook Live. Time got away from me. But I knew that I rescheduled on you guys last week, so I definitely wanted to show up for you today. And so we are in our Money and Leadership series. It looks like we just had somebody join on. Welcome, welcome. And tonight we're going to be talking about having so much debt that you don't know what to do with it. Hey, Felicia. And so, again, I do apologize for my tardiness, guys, but I am here and we will get started here shortly. I'm going to plug in my laptop so it doesn't die. That was another reason why I logged on late. I tried to use my Mac's computer and it wasn't connected. Anybody ever experienced that type of trouble? Like it says it can't find your camera. I could just be a little bit, untech savvy. So that might just be an issue I have. But nonetheless, I'm here. All right, so for those of you who do not know me, my name is Tremaine Wills, the creator of the Get Your Money Right group, the founder of Mind Over Money LLC. We are a company with a mission to really just close the wealth gap and to educate along the way. And so a lot of the information I share is information that I learned from making some mistakes of my own. Hey, Brittany, thanks for jumping on. And so you hear me talk a lot about the things that I've done incorrectly and how I've learned along the way. And so the goal through all this conversation is to hopefully impart some knowledge that resonates with you, and also to let you know that you are not alone, and that I know a lot of us may seem like we've always had it together with our finances. And I think that's one of the pitfalls that we have, is that we fake it till we make it a lot, and we don't really have any honest and genuine conversations. So that's what this space is for, to start having some more of those honest and genuine conversations, so that we can shift what the culture of money looks like for us. So tonight, the topic is debt, and really just, peeling back some of the layers to it, and definitely telling you guys more about my debt journey and what I'm doing to drop this debt. So I do want to start with talking about debt, right? So just to dig deeper into what debt is, it's any money that you owe anybody else for anything. It could be your credit cards, student loans, if you have a mortgage, personal loans, medical bills, any bill that you owe anybody else. And the crazy thing about America is that we make debt so normal, right? Like, oh yeah, I owe $100,000 in student loans. And like, people aren't even freaked out about that anymore, right? Like $100,000 is a lot. And so, hey, thanks for joining. And like, debt just is to have debt and to be in America is like synonymous with one another. Like, oh, you don't have any debt? That's a weird thing. Like, why are we like that? Why is having such huge debt loads such a common thing, right? It's so true. So like, my mission is to really just help shift what we think about when we talk about our finances, and to really break that stronghold that, it's a common thing, and this is a regular thing, to owe people money. That's what debt is. Debt is you not having enough money for something and just deciding, oh, let me go borrow this from somebody else and owe them for many, many years, right? Like, a lot of our debts have long terms. Like, when I bought this house, and I didn't think of it in this when I bought it, but like 30 years, I owe people for 30 years. Like, I can't stay in this. And so we just make debt this normal thing. And so ideally, when you're purchasing things, yes, there's good and bad debt, right? Purchasing a home to live in, if you aren't purchasing too much house, could be a good type of debt. But we definitely don't want to be incurring debt over things that we're going to use up, right? So like, if you're buying groceries and you put it on your credit card, please use that as a resource to like get points and pay that credit card off within the next few days. But we shouldn't be having debt from things that are going to expire before we pay the debt, right? That's bad debt. You don't want that kind of debt. Bad debt for sure, if we're classifying it. But when we do purchase things on debt and we leverage debt, you want it to be something that is going to be an asset that you can later leverage for further use, or just turn it into something that's going to generate you money, right? And things that expire or depreciate in value, those aren't things that we necessarily should be purchasing with debt. And so there's lots of different thought schools about the use of debt. But for me, I honestly think that we don't want to have debt. And if we're coming from a biblical standpoint, we're not supposed to owe people money, because that turns us into slaves that are working to always pay somebody else. And so that's where my thoughts from debt and the idea of debt come from, is that principally we're not supposed to have debt. And so, while we can let America tell us what to do and like, oh yeah, leverage debt to do all these different things, but like the truth of the matter is many of us are not disciplined enough to use debt in the way that a lot of the business leaders might use it, especially when you think about like real estate moguls. And I know I listen to Grant Cardone a lot, and he's like, yeah, use debt. Well, like many of us aren't to that place mentally or discipline wise where we can really leverage debt in that way. And so if you're not there, sometimes you just have to be careful about what you are using your debt for. So my thought on it is that principally in the Bible, we shouldn't owe people money. And so we need to get back to a place where we are starting to really get our budget in order so that we're not spending more than we have. So I'm going to just go ahead and jump right into this. And so my thought behind this segment is just to have an open and honest conversation about my personal struggle with debt. My journey started with credit cards. I found myself in like $18,000 of credit card debt. And yes, you heard that. That was credit card debt. And for those of you who have been with me for a while, you may or may not know, the story behind that. But when I was in college, Citi offered me a $4,000 credit card. And, I got super, super excited, right? 18, I got this credit card. All I got to do is pay this little $25 every month. And it's like, I'm rich, right? Not really understanding that you got to pay all that money back. And if you don't pay off the whole balance by the end of the month, it gets this nasty thing called interest. And that interest compounds. And next thing you know, you owe a whole lot of money. And so me not having a good understanding and a good grasp of what credit could do and how bad I could get into debt quickly, I carried a high balance, and Citi extended that balance, and I maxed it up to that too, paid it down a little bit. And then once I was responsible, continuing to pay those minimum payments, my limit got extended up to like $10,000. And I was not disciplined or responsible enough to handle that. But for some reason, my credit was still decent because I was paying those minimum payments, and I got offered another credit card from TJ Maxx. And let me tell you, this TJ Maxx credit card was the death of me. When I was in Pittsburgh, I was struggling there. And so I was using retail therapy as a retail therapy. You put therapy on the end of something, it makes it sound better. I was using retail therapy as a means to kind of fill this void, not being connected to my community and just, not enjoying where I was working. So I was shopping a lot, and I maxed out this TJ Maxx credit card. And, that put me right at that $18,000 mark. And the crazy thing about all of this, guys, is that this whole time I was working as a financial specialist. And so I was the person who was telling other people what to do with their money while I myself was not being fiscally responsible. And so when I moved back home, I decided, I have to do something about this. I have to change. I have to get this debt under control. And so fortunately, when I came back home, I really didn't have that many bills, and I was able to dig myself out of that hole. But it was only from discipline and deciding and committing to a plan that, oh no, you can't live like this, right? Because I really was becoming a slave to this payment. $17,000 in credit card debt is several $100s a month that needed to be paid. And that's just not a way to live, right? And so that's where my relationship with debt started. Of course, on top of that, I also had student loan debt. But when you hear student loan debt, you don't feel so bad, right? Everybody has student loans. And the student loan debt is in the trillions now. Trillions. That's how much money we owe for these degrees that we have. And so for me, I'm like, oh, student loan, everybody has this student loan payment. Meme joke physically. Oh, I don't get it. I don't get the joke. You got to tell me what the joke is. But everybody has this student loan debt. So it didn't really seem like a big deal to me. And so I wasn't that pressed about, having the student loan payments. But like the credit card debt, I just was like, oh, no, this has got to go. So credit card debt, student loan debt. And so it was something I was used to, I was familiar with. And then finally, I decided I had to have a house. And so while the credit card debt may have been gone, I still had my student loan payments. And I decided that I was going to take on a mortgage because debt is normal. Just get this mortgage. It'll help you get into the home you want. And I constantly have to produce income because I owe people money, right? And sometimes that can be, oftentimes that can be a stressful thing, right? I can't just get up and move freely, do the types of things I want to do because I have this mortgage balance over my head. I have these student loans that I have to pay. And so sometimes you get to a point you're like, well, why did I do this? Why do I have any of these things, right? Anybody ever get to that point where you're like, what did I get myself into? But it's because debt is so normalized, it's like a normal, it's a part of who we are in this culture. And so I decided that I wasn't going to allow debt to be something that was normal to me. And so I had to really take a look at, what I was doing to change, right? Because for so long, debt was something that was regular. I had grown kind of accustomed to it. And I wasn't really making the types of decisions that were congruent with me trying to get out of debt. So I sat down and I really looked at my budget. And the thing about it is yes, you can make your payments. Yes, you can make your extra payments. But if you have a limited amount of income, there's only but so much you can do. Right? You might be able to make an extra 200, 300, 400 payments a month, but to put some serious dents, especially into a mortgage, you gotta have some extra elbow grease. And that comes into finding additional income streams. And so a lot of times, we decide that, is it worth getting a second job, or is it worth starting a business, or is it worth giving up some of my free time, to trade that time for money? And so for me, I decided that it was worth sacrificing the time now to get myself out of debt completely and faster than 30 years, because that's just not going to work for me. And no shade to anybody who, is cool with making their little minimum payments every month, and okay, cool. That's good for you. But for me, I just know that I want to be free and clear, and I don't want to owe anybody a dime. And so I decided that I was going to be disciplined. I was going to produce additional income streams, and I was going to make the sacrifices that I'm making so that I could be free and clear and not owe anybody anything. Because if I want to get up and go, I want to be able to do that. And so I sat down and I created a plan. And, for me, now that looks like not going on vacations when some of my peers may be going, and really scaling back because I have a set goal. But the other piece of that is you have to commit to whatever you say you're going to do. You have to keep the promises you make to yourself, because otherwise you're going to find yourself making sacrifices and still not reaping the benefits of moving closer to your goal, right? And then that kind of makes all the sacrifices not worth it anymore. And so for me, what that looks like, so as I was rushing back home, I was coming from a training, learning more about finances, because I want to continue to grow and to build my business and to continue helping people. And so, yes, it's about to be, well, it is 10 o'clock at night now. And, I didn't watch any TV today, but I know the energy and the effort that I'm putting in now is producing additional income so that I can get closer to the goal that I want, right? So for anybody else that might be struggling to pay down debt, you need a clear plan. If you need help getting that set up, definitely reach out to me. I'll help you put together a plan, complimentary, of course. But it is time that we got serious about attacking our goals. I think that we get so comfortable with just accepting the fact that we have debt because everybody has it. Like, that doesn't make that okay. It's not okay for us to just to say, well, I'm going to have this debt forever. No, you don't have to have it forever. It doesn't have to be that situation. And so if you are somebody who wants to make a change and you want to say, okay, what do I need to do? What needs to happen so that I can live the type of life I want to live and not be a slave to this debt? Send me a message because I am here with you. I cannot do this. And I believe that's not what God has called me to do. So we're not going to have debt for 30 years. That's not going to happen. But the other piece of that is you have to also work on yourself. A lot of the reasons why we have so much debt is because we have mental setbacks, mental roadblocks, and just some things that we have to overcome to get in a position where we are not continuously putting ourselves in debt, right? So like, example, some of the reasons why I got into so much credit card debt was because I was using clothing and, shopping as a way to fill a void that the clothing and the shopping could not fill, right? There was something in me that needed to be developed that I was trying to fix while I was still running away from the problem. I hope that makes sense, right? And so like a lot of that is mindset work. And so until you decide that you are worth more, that you are going to commit to whatever the things you tell yourself, like you have to keep the promises you make to yourself. And the more often we break those promises, the easier it is to do it. It's like continuously quitting things that you start. Well, I quit that last thing, it's easy to quit this thing again, right? You have to stop doing that, right? So the first step is to honestly pick one thing that you're going to say you're going to do and commit to that. So if your one thing is going to be, okay, I'm going to save $5 a week. Do that thing. Save your $5 a week and be consistent and be committed. And then you can start to regain that trust, regain that confidence in yourself and see that you can actually do the things you say you're going to do. That thing could be, I'm going to, work out 3 times a week. I'm going to drink 4 glasses of water a day. Whatever it is that you need to do to talk nicer to yourself, tell yourself things that you can do, start doing those things. And so other pieces of your life can start to follow. And for me, that's what I realized is that, it wasn't just a financial discipline habit that I had. It was discipline overall that I was lacking. I was showing up late to stuff. I was, not following through on commitments. And so all of that was seeping over into every aspect of my life. So for a lot of us, take a look at, what's going on holistically so you can figure out where you need to fill in the gaps. What habits do you need to change so that everything can come together full circle? So I like to think that once you start to take control of your finances, you start to see other shifts in other areas of your life. And so hopefully, you guys experience that same shift when you start to get serious about your money, because where your money goes, your heart goes, your money follows your heart, right? So if you're serious and committed to improving your life, what you do with your money is going to follow, right? Okay. The other piece too is to start to visualize and start to dream what it's going to look like once you are out of debt. So for me, that looks like taking vacations that I can pay for free and clear. That looks like being able to spend more time with my family. That looks like finally being able to purchase a newer car. I have had Gadget since 2009, and my baby is paid off completely. But don't get me wrong, there are times that I want to purchase another car. But I know I can't do that because that's going to mean what? More debt. And I am not with that, right? So like, hopefully nothing happens and I don't have to buy a new car before the goal, but you can't keep adding debt, right? So like if you're trying to pay off your credit card, stop using your credit card, right? If you're trying to get out of debt, stop adding more debt and then justifying it with some BS excuse. Like you didn't need that thing. You didn't need that thing, right? And if you put yourself in a position to need that thing, then we have some other things that we need to evaluate and we need to rearrange in our lives, right? Because obviously we have a deep, deep financial issue. But yeah, so stop creating more debt. You cannot get out of debt creating more debt. That's not how this works. All right. But yeah, so visualize what your life is going to look like after you get out of debt. and what you'll do when you get there. So like you can start to see, okay, this is what I'm fighting for. This is what I'm working for, right? Talk nice to yourself. Tell yourself that you can do it. So like a lot of the times we struggle is because we have negative self-talk. You don't actually believe that you can get there, which is why you're taking a long time to get there. Can anybody agree with that? You know, and I know for me, it was so far away, I couldn't see it. But now I'm like, yeah, no, I'm chipping away. I'm chipping away. And like reward yourself when you do what you say you're going to do. It is okay to treat yourself sometimes, but that's the thing. We go overboard, right? Treating yourself might be, you know, let me get this $5 thing from Starbucks that I like to get that I gave up so I can get there. Treating yourself is not going to the most expensive concert you can find, right? So like, yes, it's okay to have your thing that you do to take care of yourself, but taking care of yourself needs to be on scale, right? Awesome. The other piece is learn to say no. Learn to say no, right? So like if we are serious about paying off our debt and you know it's something you can't afford, you got to learn how to say no. And so I was jokingly doing an exercise with one of my cheerleaders. She was saying how, you know, she just cares so much about people and it's hard to say no to them. And so I just started this simple exercise. And I was like, you know, hey, insert name here. Do we have practice tomorrow? And the answer was no. So she said no. And the next question was, well, do we have practice today? And she was like, no. And I was like, well, can I have $20? And she started laughing, but she said no, right? So like, get in the habit of saying no. Make it a thing that you are not afraid of, right? They will be okay with you telling them no. Things that don't align with the goal have to go. Okay? So that's the end of my TED Talk, guys. But no, honestly, just to be completely transparent with you guys, I'm still figuring this thing out too. And I think that oftentimes I don't do a good enough job telling you about where I am. So I'm still about right under $180,000 in debt. Thank you, lovely, awesome house that I just had to have, right? Some student loan debt. But the plan is to have it gone. You know, unfortunately, I think what I did in my head is I rationalized having a positive net worth, but still having so much debt as an okay thing, right? So my assets outweigh how much I owe, but I still have $180,000 in debt. That's not okay, right? So like the mission is to continually keep chipping away at it. So like that net worth can just continue increasing and all I have is assets. So hopefully something I shared with you tonight inspired you, motivated you. But my biggest takeaway for you guys is to get a plan. If you are just aimlessly out here just paying your minimums on everything, that's not going to get you to where you want to go fast enough. Definitely sit down, write everything out. Identify how long you actually want it to take, because you need a plan to know where you're going. Otherwise, you're just wandering aimlessly, right? And, you know, for those of you who, you know, may have, I don't know. My thing is like, you have to have a plan. You just absolutely need some direction. If you don't know where you're going, you're just walking around here, out here, just like, you know, kind of moving through life. And so get a plan and have an honest assessment too. And it will sting. Yes, there are going to be some things that you want to do that you can't do. But what is the trade-off? Is it worth it? And maybe it's not worth it to you. But I know for me, it is absolutely worth it. Right? Okay. If you need help, definitely email me. Send me a DM, comment in the Facebook group, whatever you need to do. I'm here for you guys. Thank you so much for rocking with me and staying on late with me tonight. And yeah, talk to you guys soon. Have a fantastic rest of your evening. I'm going to take a shower and go to bed. All right, guys. Bye.